Okay, I think we are ready on Facebook Live. I am very happy to introduce you today somebody that is going to give us great tips in how to improve the learning of a foreign language. It's a pleasure to me introduce you Monique Vinuesa. She's a bachelor degree in applied linguistics to the teaching of English as a foreign language. Also, she is a magister in English language teaching and is a doctorate candidate in University del Rosario, Argentina. Welcome, Monique.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, Monique, we have started this program that is called Spanish for the Medical Professionals. And I would like to ask you a couple of questions, maybe with your experience as a teacher and your experience in linguistics, can help us to overcome some barriers that we have learning the language. For everybody following us on Facebook, Monique is a native speaker in Spanish, but she also has lived in UK, so she teaches English. But it's very important, I think, today, somebody that is, know the two sides of the language, the linguistic in the two sides, is going to give us a couple of tips in how we can improve. For example, during the previous classes, I saw some of you struggling with the G and the J. Some people asking me, hey, Dr. V, I struggle with the V and the V when you pronounce. Other people was telling me how I can do to remember all those words, or how you can help me to improve my accent. So I think Monique can help us today, trying to share your experience, what we can do, because it's different when we learn the language when we are grown-ups. For example, I have my strong accent, even though I have tried so many things. My pronouns are horrible, my verbs sometimes are not perfect. And I was trying to teach my students that it's okay. It's still okay, because as an adult probably is going to take more time, while we learn the language when we are a child, or phonics or verbs, the pronouns and everything is going to be easier. So Monique, share with us what you can tell us, some tips that are going to be very helpful for us.
Well, I think that it's important to know how the sounds are produced. That's an interesting thing, or that's going to help. That's what I usually do with my students who are struggling with the pronunciation in English. And the problem or the reason is because when we were exposed to the mother tongue, we didn't listen to those sounds. So we have to tell to the brain, these are the sounds that we are going to produce in the second language or in a foreign language. Maybe that is going to help for the people who are analytical learners. For the musical learners, or the ones who have this very high musical intelligence, it is not going to be a problem. But for the analytical ones, it's going to be a trouble. So what I suggest is, understand how the sound is produced. If you understand how you produce, the brain is going to assimilate the sound. Even though you're not able to listen to the sound at the first time, but with the practice, you're going to assimilate. So that has helped me a lot, for instance, with my students, with the reading and with the producing the sounds. I give them a few phonics rules, I teach them, and I practice a lot, and then they will become mastering. Regarding the accent, it is not a problem. As linguists, we know that the accents is part of the mother tongue, and all the accents are fine. So what we have to understand that the communication has to take place. If communication doesn't take place, that is the problem. Even native speakers in one language or the other one, we are going to have problems, and we have these pronunciation problems. But what do we do then? We ask for clarification. So we don't have to be worried about, oh, my accent is too strong, or I cannot do it. What I have to be worried is like, okay, how can I make the sounds better? If I know how they are being produced, if I know the position of the tongue in my mouth when they are producing the vowels, that is going to help me to understand some things. It's not that I am going to overcome all my problems, but they are going to help me a lot to understand. So that's one thing, you know, knowing that we produce the sounds and knowing that how we produce the sounds here in the mouth, and knowing the difference between English and Spanish, knowing that the T and the D, they are similar. Like in Spanish, when we pronounce the D, for example, it is different. Sometimes we put the tongue between the teeth. For example, when we say cada, so we do like the TH in English, like this and that. So it's the same in Spanish for that cada. But when you say dia, you don't do the same sound. You put the tip of your tongue behind your teeth. So those little differences it's going to help to understand why the people are pronouncing things different. And what else? Regarding the vowels, that's a problem because in English we have soft vowels or vowels that well, first we have 5 vowels with 12 sounds. In Spanish, we only have 5 vowels and that's it. And no more sounds. And oh yes, you have the diphthongs, but that is for writing, not for speaking. But in English, we have different sounds. So the brain doesn't understand that, so it's going to struggle. So what you have to understand that in Spanish, most of the time, the vowels are open. That's the thing. It's just open and that is going to improve. The R, yeah, the R has to make the sound, has to touch the palate, for example. So that's why we say carro or the R. It depends in what part of the Latin America you are. In Bolivia, they do it a strong R. In Ecuador, in the Sierra, we have a strong R as well, which doesn't occur when we are talking to people in the coast region. They don't do it. They are so relaxed. So those are the things that we can remember. People usually at the coast region, the coastal line, they are going to be a little bit more relaxed. So they are going to omit some words. They are not going to pronounce every single word. But in that case, what we can do is just ask, like, speak slowly, you know, do it again, and then we will understand. Those are the things I can say so far, you know, those are the things that I work with my students.
I did a video about the letter Y and the double L, the L. And in that video, I was explaining my students exactly what you are saying right now, that in some areas, like for example, in Ecuador, we said la llama, and in Central America, they say la llama, and in Argentina, they'll say la llama. And the most, I told my students that most important, I don't care what type of accent they pick to speak, but I ask them to practice listening the 3 different sounds because for me it's important they are familiar that some people said llama, llama, or shama, and they are able to understand that is the same thing. Then whatever type of accent they want to pick is going to be okay. But and I think in that part, the pronunciation, the listening is going to be more important than the accent. I don't know what you think about
Absolutely, that. Yes. Linguists, we don't, as linguists, we don't criticize the accents and we don't say, oh, this accent is better than the other one. Absolutely not. All the accents are beautiful. All the languages are beautiful as they are. So we cannot say that one is better than the other. Absolutely not. Yes, and what you are pointing out, they are just, the term is allophones. They are variations of the same phonemes. So here, for example, yes, with llama happens that one, or pollo, it's another one. Here in Ecuador, we have different sounds for the same spelling. So people will say pollo, polio, or pollo also. But they are just variations. It's exactly the same that it happens in English, like the British, they say better, the Americans say better, and the Canadians, obviously, they will say in their own way, or the Australians, they will have another way. And so what do I do in that case? I only ask for, excuse me, do you mean this or that? So yes, we have to be in contact with the different sounds. The thing is that the brain doesn't recognize. So I have to teach to the brain, oh, they are different sounds, they are just allophones, they are just variations of the same combination, but the word is going to be the same. So with the practice, the brain is going to remember those things. And there is a study about regarding like why I don't remember some words even though I study. Well, in that case that you mentioned before, I remember you mentioned that some students are complaining that I cannot remember
All the vocabulary from one lesson, and then the next lesson we forgot.
Yes, well, there are some studies that say that it doesn't matter how many times you are exposed to that one, but your brain simply does not remember. So then we have to apply some mnemonic techniques maybe that will help you. But there's not like a solution for that one. Like as I said, there have been studies like, yes, there are some words that you can simply cannot remember. So what is the tip? Maybe you start working with mnemonic strategies or connecting with your emotions, looking for a way that you can remember. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. There are some words that you always tend to forget. So what you have to do is just like, have a list of the words where I can see them when I cannot remember them. But that's normal, absolutely normal.
What do you think about, for example, some people said, oh, we are adults, we are going to learn different than the children. We cannot learn with this type of strategies. I know there is different type of learning. Some people are visual, some people are motor, some people are just more hearing. And I said, try to identify what's your learning. If you are more visual, then go ahead with the PDFs that I provide to my students and see them because I have pictures and captions. And if you are more at a listening, go back to these lessons that they are recorded in Facebook. If you are more, or you can even write that. Any tips for the adult learning in a second language? I myself, I struggle a lot. So many years living in the US, and I still struggle in a lot of things. And I tell my students that that's okay. It's our second language. But any tips maybe in how we can improve our learning in the second language?
Yes, there is this myth that children learn faster than adults, but that's not true. The only thing is that children probably, if we measure the number of words that children master, is going to be the less number or minor the number in with the words that a student, adult student is mastering. There's the difference because, well, children, they are just, the brain, the elasticity of the brain, just giving me the idea that they are doing faster, but that's not true. The adult has the advantage that you have techniques, you know what you are doing, you can focus on your activities. So knowing that, it's an advantage. The things we can do it. The strategy is, making the learning more, being aware of the learning process. That's the thing. That's the advantage of an adult, that you know what you are doing, you can focus, you can apply some strategies, and the attention is going to be more focused on the activity. So develop some techniques, paying more attention. Like, it is not the time. Oh, but I don't have time, because people will complain. I don't have time for that. Of course, yes, you have a busy life, but just focusing on a schedule, making a schedule, being systematic, the brain is going to get that information and it's going to say, okay, this is important, I have to remember, this is for my surviving, for my living, and then you will do it. So first you have to know what kind of learner you are, the type of learner you are. I'm a kinesthetic, I am auditory, I'm visual. Okay, so if I know myself how I am, in my case, I'm very auditory. So I have to listen many times and I copy the accent. If I listen to a Peruvian, I copy the accent. If I listen to someone from Colombia, I will copy the accent. If I listen to an American, I copy the accent. Because in my case, I am auditory. Whatever I listen, I copy. But there are some people who are too logical and they are not, but so then they are going to struggle because they are trying to manipulate something that you don't have to manipulate or you cannot think about. So first, learn what, become aware of what type of learner you are. Are you more auditory? Are you more visual? So if you're visual, you need to see the sounds. Probably if you see the sounds, if you see the words, you see by categories, you're going to remember.
Mm-hmm.
If you are the kind of kinesthetic, well, you have to manipulate the words. You have to make flashcards, or probably when you practice, you have to have something in your hands in order to remember. That is going to create the memory in your brain, and you will remember. So it is not a problem being an adult. No, it's an advantage. Adults can focus on what they have to learn, what they have to do. So the first thing is motivation. Don't feel discouraged. This happens all the time. And even people who are bilingual, they tend to forget things.
When
So
we are not used to, right?
exactly. So what we have to do is only ask and don't feel afraid and never being like, oh, I'm sorry. We have this tendency to be feeling sorry for ourselves. No, we make mistakes in the mother tongue, in a foreign language all the time. The important is just to keep trying and trying. And regarding the sounds, well, understanding that they are not similar. We are speaking as a language that they are different, understanding the sounds are produced in different ways, and the brain is going to recognize that. So once the brain recognizes, everything is going to be easier. And learning, it takes time. It takes time. Motivation is a key word over there. So never lose the motivation. Doesn't matter how many times you're trying, but keep doing. That's the only thing.
Thank you for that advice. Another thing, I don't know, it's a myth or reality, and I was listening some training from the university, for Oxford University. They have a very interesting program in the one they teach you how to teach. So I took that classes in that's online, a very small free classes there also, just to see how they manage this. And they said that it's very, very important to send homework to your students. But when you start checking other sources, they said, no, you cannot send homework to your adult students because we work in a different way. You don't want them to be busier. And I think that is a very important part because I personally believe that language is a repetition part. You can attend the class, you can be with the best teacher, but if you don't practice, you don't repeat, or you don't do the homework, I think you are not going to complete the training.
Well, there is the students are always scared of homework, probably because the way we have been taught. So we hear the word and it's just like the reaction is reject anything that is related to homework. But what I usually say to my students, you always have a homework, and the homework is to practice the language or be in contact with the language. I am not going to evaluate the homework. I'm not going to grade the homework, but you have to do something that you enjoy. So I try to motivate my students, to get involved with the language in a way they like. So how do I do it? How do I achieve? Well, I try songs in the classroom. I teach them how to pronounce. I make them feel aware. I make them notice or being aware of the sounds that they are not producing properly. And I work with the song once, twice, until they get the rhythm. So I find first what they like to do. If they like music, well, I work with music. If they like reading, which is, well, here in Latin America, a little bit difficult, but I try to introduce that. So I never send the homework as homework, but I tell them keep practicing. So yes, it is important to send something to practice. Why? Because it creates a habit. If I don't practice, I will forget it. So it happens to me, if I don't practice a certain number of words, I have heard them, but if I don't use them, I lose them. So the thing is that yes, you have to have a homework, but don't look at as part of the school. Look as part of the habit, a new habit I am developing. So the brain is going to recognize, oh, this is something important, and then I am going to remember. Because the brain is the one who has to remember these things. There is so much information, adults have so much information in the brain, and in order of importance, they are going like, well, this is only another language I will use for work and I will forget it. So if I don't see that importance, I will have this tendency like, okay, no. So yes, we have to have a little task to do to become, to develop the habit of thinking in the foreign language. And then then we will master.
And
There
it
are
will
some
take
things,
time.
yeah, there are some things that I'm not going to master, like the pronunciation, like this schwa in English, like the students cannot get it when you say can, I can do it, I can't do it. we cannot notice the difference because in Spanish there's only one A sound and that's it. But in English you see the C-A-N and then you pronounce like an E, but actually sounds like another sound like an A and E. So the students get confused with the pronunciation.
I know what you are saying because sometimes when I work with my nurses, I tell them one thing and they look at me, and they have been working with me like for 8 years already. So they literally read my mind. They are so great and they literally read my mind even before I even start talking with them. But it's true because, like, for example, for me, the th that you were explaining is very difficult, and the other letters like the b and the v, and I tell my students it's going to happen the same for you in when you are learning the Spanish. And I said, don't be
Absolutely.
so strong, like you said, don't be so strong in trying to catch the perfect pronunciation, because I think in Spanish at least the vowels are easier.
Yes, and they are going to be variations, they are going to be variations. Here in Ecuador, one country is my country, but we have four different natural regions. And people in the north speak different from people in the center of the country and the south. And even in the Amazon region is another story. And another thing that influences how we pronounce is that the Quechua language also has a strong influence in our accent. So it's another world. If you go to Peru, it's the same story. They have Quechua also, which is interfering in Spanish. If we go down to Argentina, then they have the influence of Italian. The Italians were over there, and also the native speakers in Argentina, they have a strong influence. People from Uruguay, they speak other languages, other ancient languages also. So the influence of the other languages is going to change the pronunciation. So we are not going to master an ideal Spanish pronunciation. We don't have to struggle with that. We have to understand, oh, there is a variation. The the double L has a variation. The Y has a variation. Okay, what are those variations? Okay, sometimes it's going to sound, like yeah, pollo. Sometimes it's going to be a Z, like a SH in English. So if you compare the sounds, if you explain, okay, shama, sometimes it's like an SH, like in shop, like in, I don't know, in shopping, like in, I cannot remember any other word, doesn't come to my mouth. So if you compare the words, you're going to understand, oh, the sound is similar. And then you understand the spelling. But sounds are important, but the brain does not recognize, because what we have to understand is the first years from the 0 day to the first year, the brain is acquiring all the different sounds around. If I was not exposed to another language, my brain is going to reject any sound that is not related to the language, nothing to the communication. So as an adult, I have to, okay, tell to my brain, okay, listen, this sound is important. I have to remember in order to communicate effectively. So I am becoming more aware of what I am learning. But it's going to take time. That's the
It's
only
going to
thing.
take time.
And yes, I understand we become like a desperate because I need to communicate and I need to do it. But the adults are going to master, but just with a little bit more time, because we have thousands of things to focus on and thousands of things happening around us that they distract us. But yes, it is possible. The brain is going to learn because it is just a training. It's like if I want to become fit, after a couple of weeks, I will see the results. The same with the language. Never discourage. Understand? There are some variations in the pronunciation, but the words are going to be the same.
I want to thank you, Monique, for your time. I think those are great tips for the students, and especially for your very kind and encouraging words. And I invite you to see us in Facebook, in our YouTube channel, and we are going to keep working to try to continue with our program, Spanish for the Medical Professionals. Thank you for your experience as a linguistic, and hope we can get you back in our channel and in our program again.
Thank you for the invitation. I enjoy. I understand that that you struggle. I try to learn. I have been trying to learn other languages as well, and I know how difficult it is. But
Thank
it
you
is
very much.
possible. Yes, you have to remember that for some people it is easier because they have the linguistic intelligence a little bit more developed. All of us, we have the linguistic intelligence. The only thing it is more developed for once, it's easier for some people than the others, but we all can learn. That's the matter. It's just a matter of time.
Thank you very much, Monique. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. May you have a good time. See you next
Thank
time,
you.
any other
Thank
time.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.